Howdy folks, hope you're all having a good weekend, and welcome back to Jurassic World Evolution 2, where as you can see I've been playing through the various different chaos theory scenarios. This is the Jurassic World one, as you can probably tell by the aviary dome and the lagoon that I've built over here, where I'm about to incubate a Momosaurus. I think that's how you pronounce it. Actually, I'm going to need some more money. Oh well, we'll speed things up and take a look around the park while we're waiting. Now, I'm not saying Jurassic World Evolution 2 is a perfect game, far from it. There are things about it that I don't like. For example, when a dinosaur is suffering from some kind of injury or illness, you send the mobile vet unit over to check it out. Maybe you've got a sick Triceratops. The vet gives it the once over, says, yeah, it's suffering from bracken poisoning. Right, well, we'll be off. What? You're not going to treat it? It won't actually treat the illness unless you specifically tell it to do that. It will quite happily just abandon a sick dinosaur, even if it has the treatment to cure it, unless you tell it to cure it after you've told it to check the dinosaur. It's infuriating. There are certain features that I think are seriously underdeveloped. Sadly, these are some of the new features that set the game apart from the original Jurassic World Evolution. Flying reptiles in the aviary dome, for example. Considering that this is one of the new features of the game, it is seriously underwhelming. Drop some pteranodons or dimorphodons in it, and that's it. The flying reptiles don't actually do anything other than eat fish and sit around. They are really boring. The lagoon, however, the other new major feature, is pretty good. Which is kind of weird, because you can do less with the lagoon than you can with the aviary. You can at least do some landscaping in an aviary. You can't do any landscaping in a lagoon. You can't lay down ground nut and ground fibre and pine trees, because it's a lagoon, it's all underwater. And yet the marine reptiles are way more interesting, at least for me, than the flying reptiles. Speaking of which, I think we're ready to release the Momosaurus. This is a big old unit. Oh yeah, there it is. This is what people come to the lagoon to see. It's not the only thing that I have in the lagoon. I've got a couple of ichthyosaurs as well, which are basically dinosaur dolphins. And they will coexist quite happily with a massive predator like this thing. It doesn't mind the smaller marine reptiles. The Momosaur, of course, is the big ticket item, and this is what everybody wants to see. It will eat fish, but like other huge predators, sometimes it just wants something meatier to chew on. That's why everybody wants to see the Momosaur. Anyway, what else have we got? Quite a bit, actually. So how about the velociraptors? I mean, I was having all kinds of problems with the velociraptors, because giving you problems is basically what velociraptors are for. Even when they're 100% content, they're constantly fighting and injuring each other, requiring medical treatment. You treat them, you drop them back in the pen, they immediately start fighting each other. They're a colossal pain in the arse, and when you're playing through the chaos theory scenarios, unlike in other game modes, you can't just tranquilize them, sell them and get rid of them. You have to either wait for them to die or arrange to have them killed. So I just thought I'll wait for them to die, and I stopped treating them. When they injured each other, you can see the red icons on the velociraptors in this enclosure. They are all suffering from major injuries. Now, major injuries will eventually kill any other animal in the park, but not the raptors. And these raptors were suffering from concussions and lacerations that lasted months. They just refused to die. But eventually, as I progressed the scenario, I was given the opportunity to breed something that hopefully was going to take care of my velociraptor problem once and for all. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the Indominus Rex. What could possibly go wrong with this plan? Well, let me tell you about it. Despite the fact that the Rex didn't like the raptors and the raptors didn't like the Rex, all he ever did was snarl and hiss at each other. Rather than going after the raptors, the Rex kept going after the live goats. thought, that's the problem. I have to get them good and hungry, so if I remove all of the carnivore feeders, then they'll have to fight each other, right? Sounds like a foolproof plan. If there's no fresh meat lying around, either on a tray or on the hoof, then the only source of food will be each other. Except, when I removed the food source, all the Rex did was try to break out. It still refused to fight the raptors. And when it does break out, it breaks out fast. And that's bad news for all the walking Happy Meals. Turns out, the Indominus Rex does actually have an appetite. Oh, God. And here's another thing about Jurassic World Evolution 2. I don't know if you remember back in the original game, there weren't really, I mean aside from your park rating dropping for a while, there weren't really that many negative consequences financially to having your dinos escape and start chewing on all your guests. In this version of the game, you will take a serious financial hit, because apparently there's an army of ambulance chasers camped outside the gate just waiting to sue your ass into oblivion if any of the dinos get loose and start making meals out of the paying customers. And here's another thing that's new and also very amusing about Jurassic World Evolution 2. So we'll send the capture team out to trank the Indominus Rex. Of course the raptors have gotten free as well, so yeah. But the Indominus Rex appears to have suffered an injury. Now you might be thinking, well of course it suffered an injury, it just smashed its way out of a reinforced concrete enclosure with its face. But that's not the source of the injury. Because when your carnivores munch down on your guests, well, let me just show you. Can you hear that? It hasn't just swallowed my guests, it's swallowed their phones. That's the phone going off in its stomach. And that has to be surgically removed. And that shit's expensive. And I still have a velociraptor problem. Yep, the raptors would get into fights, give each other concussions, break each other's legs, and the concussions and broken legs would last the rest of their lives. I literally had to wait for them to die of old age. Note, however, that this was a problem that only seemed to exist in this particular Jurassic World Chaos Theory mode, where you weren't able to sell off any dinosaurs that you didn't want anymore. Well anyway, after playing through the Chaos Theories and the various different challenge modes, I had unlocked basically every technology and most of the dinosaurs, and I thought I'd have a go at creating a sandbox park. So, having completed the Jurassic World Chaos Theory scenario, that map then becomes available in the Sandbox mode. And it's a very, very big map. It's just one big open space, and it's ideal for what I had in mind for the experiment that I was going to conduct. So first we're going to do a little bit of landscaping, because I want all of the ground at the back of the map to be raised and forested to serve as a sort of backdrop for what I have in mind. Midway through the landscape, and I decided I was going to start developing the entrance and welcome area to the park. Now, the tools that you have available for this sort of thing aren't nearly as detailed, intricate and useful as in, for example, something like Planet Zoo, also available from Frontier. But with a bit of creativity, you can get some pretty impressive results. Now, I didn't spend too long at this, although you could easily spend hours, and I probably will at some point spend hours just creating the perfect park layout and covering it in intricate decorations, but that wasn't really the purpose of what I wanted to do in this sandbox map. I was here to mess around with dinosaur populations and see how they interact with each other. But I had a quick crack at prettying up the entrance area, and this is definitely something that I'm going to be spending way more time on in the future, and just seeing what kind of results I can achieve aesthetically on this and the various other different maps available in the game. But for now, it's all about the dinosaurs. So, back to the landscaping. I wanted to put a river in, because, well, in the sandbox mode you can turn off dinosaur thirst, dinosaur hunger, dinosaur aggression, all kinds of things, but I didn't want to do that for this for two reasons. One, it would ruin the purpose of the experiment, and two, it would look terrible. I mean, I wanted it to at least look like someplace where dinosaurs could live, and for that they need a source of water. So I've done this river, and I'm just smoothing out the terrain around the river banks. Stick some forests up on the hills, just so I can make the rear end of the park blend in slightly more naturally with the backdrop of Isla Nublar. I think that's the name of this place. The Lost World? No, not the Lost World. Jurassic World. Yeah, the 2015 movie. You know the one I mean. Next, I'm going to scatter some vegetation around for a couple of reasons, not just aesthetically to make it look nice, but they're going to need something to eat. So lots of ground fibre and ground fruit. We're going to mix in some tall fruit for the sauropods. And I want to focus it around the water because this is where I'm expecting them to congregate. I want to see if it actually works the way you'd expect it to in reality. So if I put the food source next to the water source, we should see all of the dinosaurs, in theory, cohabitating peacefully, providing all of their needs are satisfied. Now that might be a bit of a challenge when it comes to the carnivores, but, well, that's the whole purpose of this video. Just to see if you can make them live together without necessarily killing each other. So the first things I'm breeding are stegosaurs and brachiosaurs. And everybody knows what these things look like. Stegosaurs, Triceratops, Tyrannosaurus rex. Even if you've never read a book about dinosaurs, you know what these things look like. Since 1993, everybody knows what velociraptors look like. Although I probably got myself into trouble saying that. There's going to be a horde of angry people in the comments saying, well, actually, Jingles, velociraptors were the size of chickens and were covered in feathers. Yeah, maybe. Don't care. Now, one of the things that you can do in Jurassic World Evolution 2, rather than just releasing your newly bred dinosaurs straight out of the holding pen, you can release them via airlift. And they're just taken straight from the pen to wherever you've designated as their unloading point. And that would have been a much more efficient way of doing this, but it wouldn't have looked as good. You wouldn't have gotten the animation of them leaving the breeding pen and stepping out in the world for the first time. So I am going to have to assign a ranger team to tranquilize all of these dinosaurs in my breeding enclosure and then airlift them out into the park where they're going to live. 2 brachiosaurs have already been dropped off and are just getting to know their territory. We're just waiting for the stegosaurs to arrive. And these 2 cohabitating are not going to be a problem. It's more complex than it was in the original Jurassic World Evolution, though. I seem to remember that how did the rule go? Something like you couldn't put anything in the same pen as a large carnivore. Medium carnivores could go in the same pen as large sauropods, and most of the armoured herbivores. Small carnivores could go into the same pen as medium and large herbivores. There was an hierarchy to it that was relatively easy to remember. Not so in Jurassic World Evolution 2. Each species in this game has its own specific likes and dislikes as to which other species of dinosaurs it will cohabitate with. Now, stegosaurids get along perfectly well with sauropods. This isn't going to be an issue, but I am going to be mixing in other species that don't necessarily get along with each other very well. That's the whole purpose of the experiment. See if we can mix up carnivores, herbivores, all kinds of predators with their prey, but providing their basic needs are met, can they still coexist peacefully? We're going to find out. And it's not just carnivores and herbivores, by the way. Oh. With the stegosaurs socialising. This is great. The dinosaur behaviours in Jurassic World Evolution 2 really are very, very good. They're amazing to watch. What was I talking about? Oh yes, it's not just carnivores and herbivores. The herbivores obviously get a bit nervous when there are large carnivores around, but some of the herbivores just really don't like other herbivore species. Triceratops, for example, are particularly fussy about who they cohabit with. Anyway, some more brachiosaurs, this time with a different skin pattern, just for a bit of variety. And I'll be breeding some little stegosaurs as well, again, with a different skin pattern. Not sure what I think of this particular skin pattern. I mean, it's not bad, but it'll do. We'll get them all dumped off into the nature reserve. And again, you know, it's just brachiosaurs and stegosaurs. They cohabit quite nicely. This is not going to be a challenge, but I just want a lot of them in the park. Here you can see the difference between the first batch and the second batch of the brachiosaurs. And as far as they're concerned, they're just brachiosaurs. I mean, they don't care what they look like. They're going to get along quite nicely. Second batch of stegosaurs arriving now as well. So I think at this point I have 4 brachiosaurs and 8 or possibly 10 stegosaurs. So we're going to leave them to just cohabit peacefully and start throwing some different species into the mix. Let's see what these two are going to do. Are they going to socialise? Are they going to fight? Yeah, they're socialising. They seem quite happy. Yep, that's stegosaurs socialising. They headbutt each other. That's not aggressive behaviour. I mean, I say that, we have no idea whatsoever what stegosaur socialising actually looked like. That's just our best guess. But that was not aggressive. Anyway, over here we have something that is probably going to be very aggressive. I have a pair of Tyrannosaurus eggs. Ooh, okay, this one is ultra aggressive. I don't want that. I've been trying to breed them for tolerance. See how far we can actually take that. And one of those eggs has synthesized with the tolerant trait, so that's good news. I mean, it's still a Tyrannosaurus Rex, it's not a kitten, right? There's only so far you can take it. But I'm trying to stack the deck in my favour. Okay. We have some... I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce that. These things. They look like Strithiomymus, the infamous chicken lizards, but they're a different species. Closely related, obviously.
There was a lot of controversy about dinosaurs being the ancestors of modern-day birds before this one was introduced into the park. It's an Archaeornithomimus. I think it puts some of those arguments to rest.
The first carnivores that I'm going to introduce into the park, however, is not going to be the Tyrannosaurus. It's going to be one of these, well, quite a few of these things. Compsognathus, the compies. They are tiny, the size of chickens. And they are carnivores. Presumably, they would have hunted our ancestors, small mammals.
I'm Dr. Kajal Dua, and while you're keeping an eye on the dinosaurs, I'll be keeping an eye on you. The Compsognathus is a small predator, but don't let its stature fool you. It can be a ruthless hunter.
The great thing about the compy is that it's the one carnivore, the one predator that you can put down in the same enclosure as just about every other dinosaur in the game, and they won't care. In fact, they quite like them. Velociraptors like them because they're convenient little snacks. If you check out a Velociraptor, it will say that it likes the Compsognathus, but that doesn't mean it will coexist with it. It will eat them. That's because it's a Velociraptor, and those things are utter bastards. But everything else will coexist quite happily with these little things, presumably because they're just absolutely no threat whatsoever. They're way too small. Let's take a look and see how the rest of the inmates are doing.
Commencing asset transit.
Oh, check this out. There's a group of 3? Yeah. Just having a nap.
Transportation underway.
That's great. Oh, somebody's woken up. Looks like he's thirsty, going for some water. Oh, I'll say he, she. All of the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park are female. The idea being that if they broke out in the wild, they wouldn't be able to breed. But because they didn't have the full genomes for these dinosaurs, they were forced to fill in the gaps with frog DNA. And there are certain species of frog that, when under conditions with the correct amount of breeding pressure, can spontaneously change sex. So, yeah, as Dr. Ian Malcolm is fond of saying, life finds a way. Anyway, it turns out I actually forgot to provide the compies with a source of food. They are carnivores after all. I was so used to just laying down foliage and leaving the herbivores to get along with it that all the compies are starving to death, and they're so small they can't hunt down brachiosaurs and stegosaurs for a snack. So I'm going to have to put some carnivore feeders down. And that's fixed the issue. They're all now quite content. And now for something completely different. Yeah, she's a big bugger.
There isn't a more iconic dinosaur than the T-Rex. Even people who don't know the difference between herbivore and carnivore know all about the Tyrannosaurus Rex. And when you see her up close, feel her gaze, you understand why the T-Rex was the ruler of the Cretaceous period.
So this is definitely going to throw the cat amongst the pigeons. Or maybe not. As long as we satisfy all of her needs, she might not go hunting the other dinosaurs. I guess we're going to find out, but we're going to have to satisfy all of her needs. So the Tyrannosaurus, like other large predators, doesn't just require a source of meat. They have an instinct to hunt, so you have to provide live prey. And that's bad news for the goats. I've set up the live prey feeders in an area away from the other dinosaurs. The Tyrannosaurus is going to require meat, prey, water, and forest. And provided I can satisfy all of those needs, she may leave the other dinosaurs alone. Guess we're going to find out. But first, how about those other dinosaurs? It's time to introduce another new species, the Triceratops.
What can be said about the Triceratops? This is one of those dinosaurs that really defines our business. People want to see them, and we want to share them with the world. Don't let that fearsome appearance fool you. Those horns are mostly for defense and impressing other Triceratops. This animal is an herbivore. It can be a star attraction or a security nightmare if it turns those horns on our fencing.
Well, we sent the Tyrannosaur packing. Oh, hang on, what are these Stegosaurs up to? There's a reason why I put a fence down around the guest area. What is she up to? Yeah, of course you're missing ground fibre and forest. You've wandered all the way over here. I don't necessarily want to encourage them, because the whole idea of putting their food down around the one area was to see if they could cohabit peacefully. And the Stegosaurus is, you know, it's a gentle giant. It'll get along with just about anybody. But they may feel population pressure to expand. And if they're forced to stay in one area with too many other dinosaurs, that might make them unhappy. So we'll put some more ground fibre and ground nut and ground fruit around over here by the riverbanks. So let's see what's happening with the Tyrannosaurus while we're busy tranquilizing the Triceratops and get ready to move them. There it is. Yeah, comfort 100%. It needs some sand though. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Okay, let's use the landscape tools and the brush tool and just put a bit of sand around the... I'm trying to encourage it to stay around the carnivore feeders. So we'll put some sand around the feeders and some sand down here around the riverbank where it's going to want to go for water. Just trying to give it an environment that it's going to be happy and comfortable in. Where did it go? Where did it go? How did a big bugger like that get lost so quickly? Oh my god, oh, no, that's a steg... Ooh, this should be interesting. The stegosaurs are expanding their territory. They're just doing what dinosaurs do, and it's wandering awfully close to where the Tyrannosaur is lurking somewhere inside those woods. Let's take a look at the map. Oh, it's gone down there for a drink. Okay. Let's see what happens. Theoretically, it should leave the stegosaur alone. Because it's eaten. Yep, it's got... and it's all of its environmental requirements have been satisfied. It's got water. It's happy with the forest, it's happy with the sand, it's got live prey to hunt, it's been fed, it's got no reason, oh dear. Is it going for the stegosaur? It's not, it's just looking around, it's expanding its territory, it's checking out its hood. This is what all of the dinosaurs do when you put them down in an enclosure for the first time, even though this enclosure is basically the size of a nature reserve. They check it out, they expand their knowledge of their territory. That's exactly what the Tyrannosaurus is doing. It's found the carnivore feeder I put down for the compies. That's not necessarily a good thing. I went to all of that trouble to create the perfect environment for a tyrannosaur away from all of the herbivores, and the first thing it does is it goes looking. Well, yeah, that's exactly what you would expect it to do, I suppose. It wants to check out its territory, and it's found a snack. At least it's not eaten the herbivores. Let's follow it for the moment. I still have to release the Triceratops, but for now I'm curious to see what this... is it going to go for a nap? She is. She's just taking a nap. Well, I suppose that's a successful experiment. So far, at least. She's just sitting there. Oh well. Let's see what she thinks of the Triceratops. They're on their way via airlift. She doesn't even care about the Ranger Jeep. I mean, I have bred her for tolerance of other species, but she's still a Tyrannosaurus. Like I said, she's not a cute fluffy kitten. The Triceratops are on their way. You can see the flares marking their landing points. Heavy lift helos are bringing them over now. Let's see what happens. I'll just sit here and watch it. I guarantee you, by the way, that if I'd introduced velociraptors, this experiment would have been a failure already. They would be cutting a swathe through the herbivore population. Even if they couldn't eat them, they'd be killing. Actually, that's something I might do. Because watching velociraptors work as a pack to take down a large herbivore is pretty spectacular. I'll save that for a future video though, because I know that they're not going to coexist peacefully. So while the Triceratops are being delivered, let's just continue to keep an eye on Rexy here, see what she gets up to. She's not bothering anybody right now, which is really surprising. There's a brachiosaur over there. A couple of stegosaurs. She just doesn't care. She seems quite happy. Oh, hang on. What's she up to? Oh, she's caught the scent of something. Somebody might be in trouble. Oh, no. It's just one of the carnivore feeders I put down for the compies. Okay. What a good girl. Right, well, we'll leave her to her own devices for the moment, and we'll go and see what the Triceratops are up to, because they should have been delivered by now. Let's see if we can find them. They shouldn't be too hard to find. I mean, you know, they're not small. So. Alright, yeah, we can see where the helicopters are dropping them off. So they're over here somewhere? No, that's a stegosaur. Oh, I see them. What are they doing? Are they herding? That's amazing. The way they've modelled the dinosaur behaviour in this game really is pretty impressive. Although I am slightly concerned that they're herding towards where I'd set everything up for Rexy. So that could prove to be a bit of a problem. You can see they're just expanding their territory though. I'm not in... Well, you know, I was thinking maybe it's not a good idea to provide food for herbivores right next to the area that I set up for the Tyrannosaur. But one, the Tyrannosaur doesn't give a shit. She's just wandering off wherever she likes anyway. And two, I mean, the whole purpose of this video is to see... Yeah, Triceratops don't like stegosaurs, definitely don't like Tyrannosaurs. So, the fact that they are, more through luck than judgment, heading straight to the area that was set up for the Tyrannosaur, I mean, that's one way of finding out whether or not this whole thing's going to work, I suppose. Look at the one in front. It's rolling around and scratching itself on the ground. What are the other two doing? Look like they're facing off against each other. I think they're going to compete for dominance. There's always one alpha, if you like, in each group of dinosaurs. And this isn't actually fighting. This is more a form of socialising. They're just trying to figure out who's boss. Yep, nobody got hurt. They can and will hurt each other, by the way. Triceratops will fight each other. And it's pretty impressive. Unfortunately, I haven't managed to record any of it. They lock their horns and then use those massive neck muscles to try to force each other down to the ground and flip each other over. Meanwhile, Rexy just minding her own business. Every need has been satisfied. She's got water, she's got forest, there's plenty of meat, there's goats running around if she wants to hunt something. I mean, I'm not saying she's not going to hunt down one of the herbivores, but there's no pressure for her to do it, and so at the moment she's not doing it. It turns out they can peacefully coexist. Let's see what happens if we drop some velociraptor. You already know what's going to happen. Although I think it might be fun to watch. But that is something that we're going to save for a future video. I'm going to mess around with the different species in this park and see what happens. And it's been a lot of fun. And I hope you guys have enjoyed watching it. And I hope you're all having a great weekend as well. That's it for today. As always, folks, take care, stay safe, and I'll catch you next time.